Guyana, the region and the world. Compiled in the News Talk Radio newsroom and powered by DemeraraWaves.com.
Good day with your major newscast. I'm Jessica Daw. First with the highlights. The narcotics law is being amended to make it illegal to possess ecstasy and other designer drugs that are popular among youths. The Health Ministry says everyone 18 years and older who has taken both doses of a COVID vaccine can now take a booster shot. In the region, the People's National Movement has lost control of Tobago after the opposition won all House of Assembly seats. And internationally, a whistleblower has said that the UK Foreign Office's handling of the Afghan evacuation after the Taliban seized Kabul was dysfunctional and chaotic. The details of these stories and more in just a moment.
Advertise with us on News Talk Radio Guyana 103.1 FM for best coverage on programs on motivation, beauty and health, parenting and relationships, knowing your rights, and a variety of enlightening content, and get value for your money. Call our helpful staff today on 223-1056 or 223-1041 today.
Now for the news in detail. The People's National Congress reforms PNCR long-awaited Congress to elect a new leader, and a 15-member executive might be postponed amid a variety of persistent claims and concerns. Mr. Vincent Alexander has since been asked to determine if Congress could be held on December 11, 2021, and report to the Central Executive or the Congress Committee by this Thursday. A usual reliable source declined to confirm nor deny Mr. Alexander's role. The source said that one suggestion being floated is for Congress to be held during the first quarter of 2022 instead. Speaking on the condition of strict anonymity, one of the sources said majority concerns center on how would all votes be recounted and additional ballots provided should there be need for a runoff poll if there is a tie. That source said that issue remained unresolved, especially because delegates are being asked to vote in remote areas of Guyana where there is poor internet connectivity. Another source said there is incontrovertible evidence that not all nominees have been notified formally that they have been nominated to give an opportunity for the person to decline or accept. Issues that continue to linger ahead of the December 11 date for Congress, according to another source, is that a number of groups has not received the Congress circular that is used as the basis for nominating delegates, and in other instances, circulars had arrived with slates. An attorney at law has since written to the General Secretary Amna Ali expressing concerns about the process. A PNCR Central Executive member has also penned a letter indicating that she was not happy with the arrangements in Region 2, Pomeroon, Suriname. Teleperformance Guyana's largest international call center is planning to expand its operations to the Caribbean. Teleperformance's country manager for Guyana, Luis Barrito, told his company's 5th anniversary observance that plans are in train to set up call center operations in other Caribbean countries.
We are working on a Caribbean expansion. Teleperformance has a very genuine interest to not just grow in Guyana, but really look at what else is out there in Caribbean. As you know, or if you don't know, we do have presence in Jamaica, but we're still missing a lot of the smaller countries out there to be able to deliver. The experience that we've had in Guyana has told the company that the level of English, the culture affinity, and the right skill of leadership is there to be able to promote.
He says that in addition to the 1,200 jobs in Guyana, Teleperformance plans to hire 3,000 persons as part of its expansion in the Caribbean. Mr. Burrito says that eventually a number of Guyanese managers will be relocated from Teleperformance's operations in Guyana.
And I also intend for Guyana to be the main sponsor of that expansion, both financially and resource perspective. What it means is that we're going to be funding out of Guyana that expansion into smaller countries, and we will be procuring and providing opportunities for resources and leadership resources to help me branch out, which means there might be some relocation opportunities, there might be some regional opportunities that will be fulfilled out of this team in Guyana. So that is very exciting to me, and that's very exciting because Guyana will be put at the forefront of the expansion. Whatever countries we decide to go in, it'll be led by Guyanese leadership, which to me is very exciting.
Teleperformance's country manager, Luis Burrito. Health Minister Dr. Frank Anthony says that booster COVID-19 vaccines are now more widely available across Guyana. He says there are no longer special requirements.
Those persons who have received their second dose, but now we're almost 6 months after the second dose, they can come back and get a booster dose. So as of today, we will be opening up booster doses for anyone 18 years and older. You would now be able to get a booster dose. So those previous requirements that we've had where you have to be 50 years and older, we have now lowered that requirement to 18 years and older. So once you have received for a 2-dose primary regimen, your vaccines, and now you're 6 months after that 2-dose, you can come and get a booster dose.
He laments that a number of persons are not yet vaccinated or fully vaccinated.
From these numbers, we still see that there are a number of persons who can get their first dose but haven't presented themselves as yet, and we want to encourage them to do so. Make sure you get your first dose and then come back for your second dose. There are persons who have already received their first dose but didn't come back for second dose, and we want to encourage them as well to make sure that they get their second dose.
Latest official figures show that there are 1,018 active cases, but the most being in Region 4, Demerara-Mahaica. The statistics also show that 57 new cases have been recorded within the past 24 hours. The possession of designer drugs such as ecstasy and methamphetamines would now be made illegal with an amendment to the Narcotics and Psychotropic Substances Act. This is amid increasing use of these substances by youths. The amendment, government says, will ensure that persons in possession of these substances will be charged and prosecuted accordingly. Experts say that the existing law contains a loophole as it only provides for marijuana and cocaine rather than ecstasy and methamphetamines, which are increasingly being smuggled into Guyana and are quite popular among youths. Government says the amendment seeks to control the possession and use of new and emerging psychotropic substances being abused, especially by young people. The Customs Anti-Narcotics Unit is on record as saying that these designer drugs are being increasingly supplied to school children. Guyana Police Force investigators will soon be able to take DNA samples from suspects who have been arrested, according to a proposed amendment to the Police Act. The explanation for this is that in addition to measurements, photographs, and fingerprint impressions, a member of the force can take and record DNA information of a person in lawful custody for the purpose of identification. The draft law is to be debated on Monday, December 13. Under the hand of the Minister of Home Affairs, Robeson Ben, the amendment states that anyone is deemed lawfully detained at any police station in connection with the commission of any crime or offense. The Police Act is also being amended to allow police to legally carry less lethal weapons such as nightsticks, batons, and clubs, chemical irritants, conducted electrical weapons, kinetic impact projectiles, and water cannons. The bill states that the aim is to reduce the number of civilians being killed by police. According to the explanatory memorandum, the use of non-lethal weapons will help to reduce the number of persons being shot dead by police. The People's Progressive Party Civic Administration and the Guyana Police Force have been heavily criticized for extrajudicial killings of civilians during efforts to arrest them. So far, at least 3 persons have been shot and killed by police over the past 15 months. Now for the news in the region. The People's National Movement, PNM, lost yesterday's election to the Tobago House of Assembly. The Progressive Democratic Patriots, PDP, won all 15 seats of the Tobago House of Assembly. The elections decisively ended an 11-month-long stalemate after the PDP and the PNM had won 6 seats each in the elections held in January. PNM leader for Tobago, Tracy Davison Celestine, conceded defeat late last night.
We were attempting to do something that many other democratic countries couldn't have achieved, which is to try to ensure that we retain 5 consecutive terms in office. But of course, on the heels of the 21st anniversary of the People's National Movement continuing to govern this space called Tobago, there was an election and we did not make it. The people decided, of course, that they want change, and so they voted the other party.
Deputy leader of the PDP, Farley Augustine, says now is the time for all Tobagonians to unite to start doing the hard work without corruption while ensuring fair and equal treatment. He warns Trinidad and Tobago Prime Minister Keith Rowley that he must not bully Tobagonians or show any bias, or he will be voted out of office.
Let this be a strong message, Mr. Prime Minister, that we in Tobago have rejected your bullying tactics, and that the kind of bullying that is part of the political culture in Trinidad is not welcomed in Tobago. And so, Mr. Prime Minister, even before we get to Thursday's swearing in, I want to say to you that I hope we can have a cordial relationship, because country must come before party and country must come before self. I urge you, do not spite Tobago, because the Tobagonians I know are mighty enough to also get rid of you. Let that be a warning that you ought to respond to us in a dignified manner.
Deputy leader of the PDP, Farley Augustine. 3 people who were among a group of U.S. and Canadian missionaries kidnapped by an armed gang in Haiti have been released. 2 others were freed last month, but their identities were not made public. More from the BBC.
A US-based missionary organisation says 3 of its members who were kidnapped in Haiti in October have been freed. Christian Aid Ministries said the 3 were safe and appeared to be in good spirits. 16 missionaries were abducted in mid-October after they visited an orphanage in Port-au-Prince that's run by one of the powerful gangs that increasingly fill the power vacuum left by Haiti's dysfunctional government. Reports say the gang was demanding a ransom of $1 million for each person's release.
The report from the BBC. Suriname's Defence Minister Krishna Mathuria says there is no place for organised crime in the National Army. She is pledging to eradicate the possible infiltration of organised crime in the military service. Her comments came just days after a lieutenant of the Suriname National Army was arrested allegedly with more than 500 kilograms of cocaine. The cocaine was found in the vehicle that he was driving. A large quantity of United States dollars, euros, and Surinamese dollars were also found in the vehicle. Investigators are also looking for another military officer, 40-year-old Ramanio Kaladian, in connection with more than 900 kilograms that had been seized in April this year. And lastly, in the region, the Bahamas is suffering from a shortage of nurses as the world pays keen attention to the likely impact of the coronavirus strain named Omicron. Health and Wellness Minister Dr. Michael Darville says talks are underway with relevant stakeholders. More in this report from our Bahamas' Berthany McDermott.
As the country continues to battle a severe nursing shortage, Health and Wellness Minister Dr. Michael Darville admitting today that finding nurses to staff the country's healthcare facilities is proving to be a challenge. This as he says they're looking to fill 30 spots.
We have been in discussions with the Nursing Council. We have had discussions with the unions as it relates to try to fill in the gaps. From my initial assessment, we have been informed that there is a deficiency of some 30 specialty nurses, and we need to move swiftly to see exactly if we can find them.
Darville stressed that the time to fill these positions is now while the Bahamas is seeing low COVID numbers. However, as government looks to recruit these nurses, Bahamian nurses are being recruited by other countries, making an already difficult situation worse.
There are people in our country recruiting our nurses for the developed world, and this is what we have to compete with, and so we must find ways to ensure that we try to keep our nurses at home once they finish the program by offering better packages and other incentives.
The Bahamas has long faced a nursing deficit, even before COVID-19 brought the world to its knees. The issue became a vital one during the pandemic as hospitals quickly became overwhelmed, stretching the staff complement. At multiple points during the second and third waves, beds were available but could not be used because of the shortage of nurses. Several nurses in the Bahamas have died of COVID-19, while others have left the country for opportunities elsewhere.
The last wave was a difficult wave, and we have stretched our healthcare manpower resources to the limit. And we are so pleased that we have a slight break where some of them could actually recuperate and get some rest. But with that being said, we cannot underestimate the possibility of something similar happening to us.
Now, with a drastic decrease in COVID-19 cases and hospitalization, the Health and Wellness Minister says this has given them the opportunity to focus on other specialty areas. Reporting for Our News, I'm Berthany McDermott.
Here now is your international news coming from the BBC.
Hello, I'm Debbie Russ with the BBC News. Presidents Biden and Putin are due to meet by video about now for talks dominated by Ukraine. As Russia has massed tens of thousands of troops on its border, the US and leading European countries have voiced their determination that Ukraine's sovereignty be respected. John Donnison is in Moscow.
This comes at a time when the Kremlin here is describing tensions with Europe and the West as off the scale and relations with the United States as lamentable. What the United States has said in recent days, its intelligence officials are saying that Russia is massing troops on its border with Ukraine and preparing for an invasion early next year, possibly with as many as 170,000 troops. Now, Russia here just says that is anti-Russian hysteria, and it is saying that that the United States has been having provocative actions with NATO operations in the Dead Sea.
The Vice President of Burundi says at least 38 people have been killed in a fire in the main jail in the capital Gitega. Prosper Bazumbanza said nearly 70 others were seriously injured. Burundi's Interior Ministry said the fire was caused by an electrical short circuit. Some inmates said they shouted for help, but police refused to release them. More details from Patience Atuhaire.
Most of those caught in the fire were male inmates. The women were housed in a different building in the prison complex. Vice President Prosper Bazombanza and other senior officials rushed to the prison after the news broke. The fire started in the early hours of Tuesday when the prisoners were asleep. Local media are reporting that firefighters took a while to arrive. Eyewitnesses told the BBC that most of the prison buildings were razed to the ground.
The head of the World Health Organization's Europe region has said that although it's right to be concerned about the Omicron coronavirus variant, the problem right now is the predominant Delta strain. With more details, here's Naomi Grimley.
WHO officials say the introduction of the Omicron variant to Europe has been widespread, but it is still too early to predict the speed and extent of its future spread. They want countries to concentrate on tackling the current Delta wave, which has seen deaths in the region double since September. The regional director, Hans Kluger, said mask wearing in Europe needed to improve dramatically. He said that compelling adults by law to get vaccinated should only be done when all other policy interventions had failed.
Naomi Grimley reporting. A bomb blast in the southern Iraqi city of Basra has killed at least 4 people and wounded a number of others. Military officials say the explosion was caused by a motorcycle rigged with explosives. Basra has been less targeted than other major cities in Iraq. You're listening to the World News from the BBC. Thailand's human rights watchdog has called on the government to release 36 people arrested on Monday during a protest against the construction of a big industrial zone on the southern coast. Almost a year ago, the Thai cabinet delayed plans to create the Jannar industrial hub in response to demands for an environmental assessment. But activists are worried the authorities will push ahead with the project. New research shows the coronavirus pandemic has exacerbated inequality in every part of the world. The World Inequality Report says there are a record number of global billionaires whose collective wealth rose 75% this year. Chris Morris reports.
Fewer than 3,000 people now own 3.5% of the world's wealth, the report says, while the poorest 50% of the planet's population own about 2%. Developing countries which are short of vaccines and of the financial resources to respond to a public health emergency have struggled to cope. That means inequality within those countries has soared. The report identifies Latin America and the Middle East as the world's most unequal regions. Whereas in richer countries, policies such as income support for employees unable to work during the pandemic has helped cushion the blow.
An international pressure group says an Islamist insurgents in northern Mozambique have abducted more than 600 women and girls over the past 3 years. Human Rights Watch said they were taken during raids and forced to marry militants. It said some have been sold to foreign jihadists, others have been freed by Mozambican and allied forces, but many remain in captivity. An ancient clay tablet with lines from one of the world's earliest surviving works of literature has been returned to Iraq from the United States in a formal ceremony. The Gilgamesh Dream Tablet, valued at $1.7 million, was looted from an Iraqi museum during the First Gulf War. BBC News.
That was your international news. Here now is a recap of the highlights. The narcotics law is being amended to make it illegal to possess ecstasy and other designer drugs that are popular among youths. The Health Ministry says everyone 18 years and older who has taken both doses of a COVID vaccine can now take a booster shot. In the region, the People's National Movement has lost control of Tobago after the opposition won all House of Assembly seats. And internationally, a whistleblower has said that the UK Foreign Office's handling of Afghan evacuation after the Taliban seized Kabul was dysfunctional and chaotic. And that was your major newscast. I'm Jessica Daw.
This has been the news, compiled in the News Talk Radio newsroom. For ongoing updates, visit demerarawaves.com, and you can check facebook.com/demwaves and twitter.com/demwaves.